Hey guys, this is Dr. Callahan for week 15 Wednesday for Algebra 2 Semester 2. How are you guys doing? Go ahead and pause the video and answer the following 3 questions for your warm-up log. All right, so let's go ahead and get today started. First thing, just as a friendly reminder, remember that if you are physically not in my class, you will get a 50%. So if you're not here, which, if you're not here, then you're not here, but 50% is kind of what we curve it on. If you do show up, but I have literally nothing turned in from you, it's a 55%. And as you guys can see from just the check marks as you guys sign in today, that basically tells me whether you did the work and if you turn it in or not. I love seeing your faces here, which is awesome, but you have to turn things in for me to give you the grade. If you sit there and look at your phone all the day, but you're not disruptive, so I'm not bothering you about it, but your grade does kind of take a hit because there's nothing for me to grade for you. But for those of you guys who have been doing well, I think you're good. To get a 6 or a 7, means that you will have to turn your assignment in. But maybe your assignment is not complete. So if it's like halfway done and you have pieces of it blank or whatnot, that's usually like a 70 or a 60. If you have like 75% of it complete, like majority of it completed, but maybe like a quarter not completed, then usually get an 80%. And there's like limited errors on your work. And then of course, if you turn it in, everything looks pretty good for the most part, that's where your A is. So that's kind of how the grading scale works. So everything in your grade book is always out of 10 points. Every single week, you guys get 3 grades going into the grade book. And those 3 grades are going to be your Math Excel for your assessment, Math Excel for your 10-question homework, and then the stuff that you turn in class. So like 30 points goes into your grade every single week, okay? All right, so with that said, this is week 15. You guys know the drill. Safety grade is 75%. You don't have a curve because you get 50% if you don't show up. So that's your curve right there. So the green part is all the classes we have left. The yellow part is the week of the finals, and we only have like 5 more weeks left, technically 4.5 weeks left because we're halfway through this week, okay? Your next holiday is May 30th, which is gonna be Memorial Day weekend, and then we start finals, and that's it. If you are not here on week 15, Tuesday, you missed out on turning your assignments in, but this is what we went over. We talked about Leonardo DiCaprio and the Twitter of how many people were tweeting after he won an Oscar. We did the data on the table. We completed the graph. And then we also did some of the equations. We made some predictions. And I had you guys go ahead and complete it in class. And then you submitted it, okay? We looked at our calculators, how we'll find this on the calculator. So if you're not here that day, you can find it right there on the red bookcase. I have all of the missing assignments right there for Algebra 2. So you guys can go ahead and grab it. And then we did an escape room. We also talked about investments and how much money you'll get back from Kristen and Quinn with their money. And then we did an escape room. And you guys have like a secret admirer that locked you in and you have to go ahead and complete it. The QR code to access that is right there. And then of course, I had all of my work already submitted and completed on another Google Doc so that we can kind of like follow along to make sure your answers are correct. So at the very end, as long as you hit submit and I have your name, I just give you a check plus because you essentially completed it. Does that make sense, you guys? Okay, so if you were not here yesterday or if you didn't finish it, just watch the video for week 15 Tuesday and you'll have everything there, okay? All right, so today I'm gonna give you guys your assessment for week 15, but before we do that, I wanna practice a little bit more with graphing exponential functions using your calculator. On your test or your final that's coming up in June, you have to use a calculator. And some of the questions mandate you to use a calculator to get to the answer. So if you don't know how to use a calculator, you don't know where the button is, it's really not helping you. So to stay up to date, if you have not been here, week 15 Tuesday's video is right there. I usually just update it like the day of, and it's only about 39 minutes. And so if you were not here yesterday, you will be able to see that. So that way you're not missing out on anything. There's 67 videos. So I taught you guys 67 times this year or the semester. And so, yeah, so make sure you guys have that. All right, so today we are supposed to start logs, but like I said, we're a little bit behind, and that's okay because I have plenty of time to kind of catch up with on this. And so we're going to continue on with modeling with exponents. You guys are going to have my notes on graphing exponents, so you do need to have a TI-84. I'm going to give you guys the second half of the class to do your assessment. So it's just 5 questions on Math Excel. We're going to go ahead and check your grades before you guys leave, and I'll post it on Teams. You guys have a Padlet for your exit ticket. So the materials that you need right now is your handout. You need 2 color pencils, a TI-84, and an iPad or a cell phone. So with that said, give me 1 second. I just want to check something very quickly. Oh, okay, so this is good. All right, so come on up and grab your paper here. Grab your colored pencils and your TI-84 calculator. So this is going to be part of your assessment for this week as well, but I'm not just going to leave you guys hanging doing this on your own. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to do a few of the questions, and then I'm going to release you guys and you're going to do the questions on your own. So as long as you're paying attention, you should be good. We're going to start off with questions number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So make sure you guys are on that slide. And make sure you have a TI-84 calculator because you're going to need it on your on this assessment. I'm not going to do all of the questions. Like I said, I'll do a few and then I'm going to have you guys do it. All right, so let's start off with 1 and 2. Okay, so let's start off with number 1. So first thing that you notice is that your equation is y is equal to 4 to the x. So I know that the 4 is going to be my multiplier. And that 4 is bigger than 1. So automatically, I know this is going to be a growth. Okay. And I know the picture of a growth looks like this. You start with small numbers and then you go up in big numbers because that's how things are growing. So first thing I want to do is I want to grab my calculator. So grab your calculator, turn your calculator on. And for those of you guys at home, I'm going to make sure you can see the calculator as well. So then you're going to go to y equals. You see where it says stat plot. This is y equals. I'm going to clear that. I'm going to put 4. Use a little triangle for the exponent. Put x and then hit graph. Okay, so that looks like an exponential growth. That graph looks like it. But what I need to do right now is I need to fill out my table. So do you see where it says table under graph? It's blue. So to access that blue button, you got to hit second and then graph to get the tables. All right, so there's your table of values. I'm going to use my up button to go to 3 or -3, so that way I can write those numbers down. So you guys fill out that table. And so here's my calculator right there. And I can see that when x equals -3, my answer is a 0.01563. When it's a -2, it's at 0.0625. When it is at -1, it's at 0.25. When it's at 0, it's at 1, 1 to 4, 2 to 16, 3 to 64. So there, that's how I'm going to fill out my table. okay? But again, you gotta know how to use your calculator to get to that. It's great to have a calculator, but if you don't know where the buttons are, that's gonna be a problem. And I can't tell you where the buttons are on your final because I won't be able to do that. That's why we're practicing now. So now with your colored pencils, let's go ahead and graph this. -3, my graph is gonna be very, very low to the bottom. -2, still very low to the bottom. -1, it's at 0.25, so right there. At 1, or I'm sorry, at 0, you're gonna go to 1. At 1, you're gonna go to 4. At 2, you're gonna go to 16. At 3, you're gonna go all the way up to 64, which is even off the graph. So then with your second color pencil, you can go ahead and connect them to show that it looks like an exponential growth. And that's what you should have for number 1. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at number 3, okay? So for number 3, if I take a look at this, do you see how the inside is a 1/2? Well, that's B. B is less than 1, so you know if it's smaller than 1, it's a decay. And what a decay means is that you have a really, really big number, but then it slides down to a very small number. So I'm kind of like anticipating my graph to look like that, okay? But to make sure, you're gonna grab your calculator, hit y equals. We're gonna clear that because I don't need to have the first one anymore. Or if you don't want to clear it, you can just always like deselect it, for example. Like, do you see how where the equal sign is right here? So I'm gonna show you guys how to do that. You see where the equal sign is? It's like blinking at the equal sign, right? But if you want to keep that equation, you just hit enter to deselect the equal sign. And then you head down to y2 and you type in your new equation. So my new equation is going to be parentheses, 1 divided by 2, close parentheses. Use your little triangle for your exponent, push X, and then graph. So yeah, that's kind of like how my graph looks, and which is great, but I also need to fill out this table, right? So then to fill out this table, I'm gonna hit second, and do you see where the blue part is this table right there? But it's by grade, so hit second, not grade, graph, and then there's your table. And those are your table of values. So take a moment and go ahead and fill out your table with those values. I love how they're having a party outside. I'm like, can you guys like, I don't know, go to Sea House and have that party over there? That might be nice. Okay, so let's fill out the table. And my table is going to be, when x is -3, I get an 8. When x is -2, it's a 4, -1 is a 2, 0 it's a 1, 1 is a 0.5, 2 is a 0.25, and 3 is a 0.125. And do you see how if you know where the buttons are, it saves you a lot of time from like putting the numbers one by one by one. So this way the calculator does most of the job for you. So you're not working harder, you're working smarter. You know, I always tell my students like there's only 24 hours a day in a day, right? You can't get more than 24 hours. So rather than working harder, because you don't have more time, you need to learn how to cut corners and work smarter with strategizing. So that's why you have your calculator, because it helps you with that. So at -3, you go up to 8. At -2, you go to 4. At -1, you go to 2. At 0, you go to 1. 1, you go to half. 2, you go to a quarter. And then 3, you go to 0.125. And then with your other pencil. This is your graph. All right, so now we did a growth and then we did a decay. So now let's go ahead and try one that is going to be like number 6, for example. So let's take a look at number 6. So for number 6, notice that you have the 1/4, that's your B. Okay, so your B is smaller than 1, so it's going to be a decay. But you also have a 6 right here. That 6 is your initial value. Okay, but still going to be a decay. You're starting off with 6. That's essentially what it's saying. So let's go ahead and graph it. So with your calculator and have mine. Now, if you're like, I want to keep the second equation I have here, just go to the equal sign, deselect the equal sign. Do you see how it's not black anymore? So that way you're not using it, but I'm going to keep it there because in case I want to graph all of them together, I have that. So I'm going to use, I really like the color pink. So I'm going to go down to number 4, hit enter to select that, because you don't always have the graph like in order. You could graph out of order if you want a specific color. You could pick a color that you want. Mine is the pink one on Y4. And then on there, I'm going to hit 6, parenthesis, 1 divided by 4, close your parenthesis, push the little triangle button for the exponent, and then hit X. So it looks like that. And then you're going to graph. And your graph is going to turn out that color that you selected. And it's a decay because it's going from a big number to a small number. So then, of course, I want my tables. So you're going to hit second and then graph for the tables. And then you have your table of values. Okay, so as we look at this here, there's your table of values. So when x is equal to -3, you get 384. I don't even know how we're going to graph that because our numbers are not, I mean, we don't have that many numbers there. When it's -2, you have 96, -1, 24, 0, 6, 1, 1.5, 2, 0.375, 3.09375. And so let's go ahead and graph them. So we're going to start off with -3. You can just go all the way on top. I mean, like, I really don't know how you're going to get a 300, but I think that's as far as I can go. Then when it's at -2, that's still very, very high up there. -1 is at 24, so it's like right there. And then at 0, it is at 6. 2, it is at, or 1, it is at 1.5. 2, it is at 0.03. It's at even smaller. So your graph should look something like this. So I'm gonna give you guys a moment to kind of catch up. Okay, so then we're going to go on to the right side, you guys, of your questions, which is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right, so I'm actually going to go ahead and do number 8. So if you take a look at number 8, notice how you have a -3 in front of that. And so all this means is that it's still your B is greater than 1 because it's a 3. So it's going to be a growth. That -3 is your initial value. So it just means you're starting with a -3. That's all it means. But it's still going to be a growth. So your graph should look something like that. So when I graph this, so grab your calculator. Y equals, I'm going to make sure I deselect my last one that I graphed in pink because I don't need that equation anymore. So I'm going to deselect the equal sign, hit enter on the equal sign so it's no longer black. And then I want to use, let's do orange. So I'm going to use number 6, Y6. So to insert this, you got to be careful. You got to put a parenthesis. -3, close your parenthesis. So that way you know that that's -3 on its own. And then you're going to put another parenthesis. So open up another parenthesis and put 3, close the parenthesis, exponent with a little triangle, X. So your graph looks like that. So, or as you insert it, it looks like that. So then when I hit graph, this is what my graph will look like. Oh, so actually it's not a growth. It looks like it's like a negative. It's a negative growth is what it is. Okay, so it's still a growth, but it's a negative growth because it's moving downward. So I'm going to change my window a little bit. So I'm going to have my Y max not be 50 because I don't need to have all that space up there. So Y max can just be 10 and then graph it one more time. And this is what your graph looks like. So this is called a negative growth. You're still starting with somewhere small, but then you drop all the way down. And so let's go ahead and fill in our table. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the button for that. And that is going to be second graph. And then you have your chart right there. So fill out your table. So then as I look at this here, you have your chart, our graph that looks like this. Here's your chart. And then you just go ahead and fill out your chart here. And you should have -3, which is at -0.11. So at -3, it is actually a really, really small number. And then at -2, it's still a very small number. -1, it's at -1. So it's getting a little bit bigger. 0 should go down to -3, 1 to -27. And then 2, you go all the way over to -27, or I'm sorry, to -1 is at, oh, I'm sorry, 1 is at -9. Just kidding. So let me change that. 1 is at -9. 2 is at -27. 3, it is at -81. So all the way over here. So let's go ahead and graph that. And this is where it's going. One of the things I forgot to write down was your horizontal asymptote, the HA. It's saying y is equal to, well, y is equal to 0 because that's where it is. Okay, so there is a horizontal asymptote and it is right here. That is your horizontal asymptote, y equals 0. So the graph is getting very close to that blue line at 0, but it never touches that blue line. All right, you guys, let's go on to the next part then. So for the next part, let's go ahead and take a look at number 10. So for number 10, we're going to go ahead and grab our graph. So here it is, y equals, and then I'm going to go down and make sure I deselect number 6. And then I'm going to use, let's use the green one. So y5, I'm going to type it in there. This one says -4 exponential x. So that's what it looks like. So -4 exponential x. And let's hit graph. And that's kind of what it looks like. And then you hit second graph to get the table. And then with the table, we're going to fill out the table of values. And then you guys are going to go ahead and just graph them and connect the dots. Okay, so then as I graph this, you guys make a notice that at -3, it is very small. At -2, it's still very small. -1 is at -0.25. And then 0 is at -1. 1 is at -4. 2 is at -16. And then 3 is at -64. And then you just go ahead and connect your dots. And there you go. Okay, so our very last one, you guys, let's go ahead and do number 11 because number 11 looks a little bit different the way that it's graphed. First things first, as I look at number 11, I see that the 3 is right here. That's your growth. So it's going to be a growth. It's also a positive, but your initial value is 1/3. So let's see how that's going to change. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my calculator again. Here it is. You're going to go to y equals, and I'm going to deselect my last one, which was in y5, and I'm going to go down to maybe y7 or y8, which will be blue. Okay, so for y8, I'm going to put parenthesis 1 divided by 3. One divided by 3 for the parenthesis. And then I'm going to go ahead and do another parenthesis to put the 3 there with the exponent, and then make sure you put an x and then hit graph. And it's a growth. It looks like a growth anyways to me. Okay, so then let's go ahead and take a look at your second table or second graph of the table. And you should have your table of values on your calculator as well. All right, so as I'm graphing this, let's start off with a -3 is that really small number right here. -2, still very small number. -1, still very small number. 0 is at 0.3. And then 1 is at 1. 2 is at 3. Oh, actually, 3 is right here in the middle. Then 3 is at 9. And then if you want to go to 4, 4 is at 27. So all the way up here. So then with my with your second color pencil, just go ahead and draw that. After going over 6 examples, do you guys have a pretty good idea how to do this? Yeah, I hope so, because I'm like, that was a lot of examples. Now, if you went ahead and saved all of your equations right here, now, if you want to see what they all look like, you can just go back to the equal sign, highlight all of them. So you see how like there's the black little highlight for 5, 6, 4, all of them, and just hit graph. You will literally have all of them graphed together on the same one. Although, oh, there it is. That's getting there. It's just taking a little bit longer than normal because it's thinking hard about graphing all 6 graphs. All right, so then what I want you guys to do is I went over 6 questions. I want you guys to go ahead and take the next 15 minutes to finish up the other ones that's not completed. Some of you guys probably already worked ahead, which is awesome. But for those of you guys who are not quite there yet, make sure you guys complete all of them there. Now, for those of you guys who are finished with this, that's awesome. I'm going to go ahead and have you guys get started on your math Excel for this week. So I'm gonna go ahead and open that. So at this point, if you need to grab a laptop, please get up and grab the laptop. So you just go to Washoe County School District, type it on your Google bar, so WCSD, and then just type in math Excel, and it should be the first one that pops up. Go to sign in. Algebra 2, math Excel for school. And you're just gonna go to your assignment manager. And I'm gonna go ahead and create an assignment. I'm gonna create the quiz. And I'm just gonna type in week 15 Wednesday assessment. And the things that we talked about this week is that exponential functions. Next. And it's just gonna be 5 questions. That's it, okay? It shouldn't take you guys more than 10 minutes, I would think, to answer it. So, and this is gonna be due by the Sunday, which is May 1st by 11 p.m. Although I will recommend that you just finish it in class, so that way you don't have to worry about doing this later on. Save and assign. All right, so for this week, you guys, you have this already there. This is what it looks like. It's a little bit out of order and I'm having a little bit difficult time trying to like get them all in order. So I would just recommend that you ignore this one right here and just specifically focus on the one that says week 15 assessment. Okay, so those are the two that you guys should be focused on. All right, so for those of you guys in person, you can either finish your worksheet, which is part of your assessment. When you're done with that, go ahead and start working on your AP College or Math Excel, not AP College Board, Math Excel. And then after your Math Excel for your assessment, if you're done, I will recommend that you guys do this one first and then start your Math Excel homework second. So you have plenty of things to do. And while you guys are doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and update your grade.